The day and age of stacks of paper on a desk, quote sheets, and all of the work you need, it's gone. No more. Everything is electronic software. We have all these cool software systems and we need to be using them.
It helps if we prepare, right? If we
Sure does.
spend our time preparing, we're not spending our time repairing later. Hey, everybody. Bobby Fernandez here, Agency Performance Partners Performance Coach. And I am here today with the lovely Mrs. Therese Potter. Hi, Therese. How are you today?
Hi. I am doing fabulous. I am APP's Operations and Training Coordinator, and I'm excited to be here today to talk about time off. Vacation.
Vacation. Who doesn't want to take a vacation?
It's kind of hard sometimes when you're afraid to come back to all that work.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, some of us don't want to take a vacation because we're afraid to come back to all of that work. And preparing for time off is so important in everything that we do, and especially at an insurance agency because it matters to our customers.
It sure does. Sure does. You can definitely drop a lot of balls if you go on vacation and people in your office don't know what's going on. So we've got some strategies that we have come up with to help agencies basically have people on vacation and survive and not panic. Oh my gosh, someone's on vacation. You really need to have those strategies so you're prepared and your agency still runs smoothly at the time of vacation, which is right now because we happen to be in the summer of 2023.
Yeah, this is so great and it's so timely. And I was so excited to be able to write this blog for everybody because I really believe passionately that people should be able to take time off and they shouldn't have to come back to a load of work because it's not truly a vacation if all my work is waiting for me when I get back, right? We need to be kind to one another, mental health these days, and especially right now in this hard market that we're having. Our people are crispy, they're stressed. We don't need to throw other things on them, but we need to have a plan and we need to have a strategy to deal with time off in our insurance agency. And a lot of times what happens is that people take time off and they just come back to a mountain of work, a pile of work, and that's not what we want to see happen. And so I have done 6 strategies for our leaders and how they can lead their team through those times. And then 6 strategies for employees to consider, because we have different things that we need to consider in an agency from different levels when we're talking about time off. So the first thing I want to talk about as a tip for a leader, Therese, is planning ahead and why it is so important to plan ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you need to have a time span that you create as a agency as a whole that says, okay, if someone wants time off, you have to have that time off into your supervisor by a certain time, whether it be a month, whether it be, 2 weeks in advance. You need to have that time in ahead of time so you can prepare accordingly. If you wait till the last minute, now we know that last minute happens because of unseen circumstances, unfortunately, like funerals and that kind of thing. But when it comes to a vacation, a true vacation, people have to plan it in advance. Now, I'm not an expert at this because I don't take a lot of vacations. I'm really, really bad at taking vacations because it's like, oh, do I have the money? I don't have the money. When are we going to have the money? So I'm really bad at that. But I recently just planned one for July. So I'm ahead of the game because we're not even in June yet. Here, we're in May. And I have planned and bought airline tickets for July. So you have to do that in advance so you can prep and make sure you're ready before that vacation comes.
Absolutely. I mean, planning ahead is so important, and not just planning ahead, but communicating that plan to the rest of the team. So I already know, and I'm excited for Therese's time off. I want to find out from her when she gets back, like, hey, did you have a great time? Right? And she's going to tell me exactly what she did. And we're going to be able to celebrate that time off together. And she's going to be able to confidently go on vacation and know that no balls are being dropped, that all of our client expectations are getting met, and she's going to be able to rest and relax and have a great fun time with her family and her friends and not have to worry about work while she's gone. creating a policy where you are planning ahead, taking that time off, respecting that time off is going to be super important to an agency. And so that leads me into my next tip, which is creating a clear policy in regards to your time off as an agency. And so we need to be making sure that we are outlining clear policies and procedures for our people about when they're allowed to take time off, how they request that time off, just clarity around that and how it's accessible, and then making sure we're reviewing those policies regularly. Have you ever had a situation, Therese, anywhere you've been where you've maybe not been sure about how to request time off or how to take time off?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think sometimes when it comes to processes and procedures, agencies forget about them until something comes up. So then when they have the problem, that's when they make those processes and procedures all of a sudden. You're like, oh, you're going to take time off tomorrow? Oh, okay, let's figure it out. And then when you come back, oh, you didn't follow our procedures because now here's our procedures. So yeah, I've been in places where those procedures are in place where people can just basically take vacations whenever they want, whether that be tomorrow or 2 weeks from now. And APP is a place where we have a policy ourselves. So like you said, we eat our own cooking. We have a plan of what we do when time's off. So we just pull that plan up and it tells us step by step what we need to do. So I've been at places where they don't have them and they kind of create them on the fly. And now I'm at a place where they have one and it's very clear.
And I think, ultimately, when you have a plan, people like clarity, right? They want to do the right thing most of the time. And so I think, ultimately, having a clear policy really contributes to a positive work environment. It really helps the overall success of the agency because it keeps our people happy. So the other thing, though, my next point that I want to talk about is that we have to remain flexible. Just like Therese mentioned when we were talking earlier about, we know that there's going to be unexpected time off. And how do we plan for that? And I know you're going to say, Bobby, how would I plan for unexpected time off? But there are ways that you can really set your agency and your team up for success. And Therese has an idea.
Having everything in your management system,
right?
So there are things you should do that basically promote if somebody suddenly wins the lottery, as Kelly always says, you think they're going to be there tomorrow if they win the lottery. Nope. So you have to plan ahead. And the biggest one is getting everything in your management system and document.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important. And if you're out there in, insurance podcast land right now thinking there's no way we can get everything into our agency management system in real time, I'm here to tell you that there's a way. And if you want to know what that way is, reach out to us because we can help you with some agency efficiency and teach your people how to do direct entry into the agency management system. None of these strategies work if we're working outside of our agency management system. So agency efficiency is the course for you if you're not sure how to get that information in the system. So you can click the link and we can help you and get a meeting together immediately if that's what you need.
And the day and age of stacks of paper on a desk, quote sheets, and all of the work you need, it's gone. No more. Everything is electronic software. We have all these cool software systems and we need to be using them. As hard as it is, and as much as our older staff and seasoned staff want to fight it, we have to use it. That's what it's there for. And it makes our agencies so much more successful.
For sure. Our employees that are not positive and are not motivated and they're burnout and they're stressed, they don't create a happy, healthy work environment. They're not doing any good for our agency. They're not doing any good for our clients. And so we want to be fostering an environment, flexibility and accommodation. We want our people to understand that we support them as leaders And so I've given some pretty good tips on some ways to be flexible for unexpected time off, like having open communication with your staff and making sure that you're always receiving what it is that they're telling you, because it will help them be able to tell you when they need time off more quickly rather than going out to the bar the night before and just calling in sick the next day.
I have a really interesting example of this. My husband is an operations manager at a lumber warehouse, and he runs a very tight ship. He's prior military, and he doesn't take time off, and he doesn't like it when other people take time off, unfortunately. So the guys won't tell him that they're taking time off. They'll tell his boss, and then his boss fails to tell him. And then he's like a day before, and his people are saying, "Oh yeah, I'm off tomorrow. I told so-and-so." And because he is so harsh and he doesn't like people taking time off, the guys don't come to him and tell him that they're going to take time off because they know how he's going to react.
Well, and I think that leads into my next biggest point, that as a leader, we have to lead by example. You have to take the time off yourself. You have to show your staff that you care about your own well-being so they will care about their well-being. And it shows that you value and respect the need for personal time when you take that time off.
Well, and a lot of managers, operations people, CEOs, they either really value that time off and take time off all the time, or which I've seen those, or they don't take any time off at all because they're afraid they're going to miss something. The fear of missing out, FOMO. They're afraid something's not going to work. Something's going to get broken. Something's not going to be done right. Another example of that is my husband is the only person in the warehouse that knows how to use the Zamboni. He has now taught me how to use the Zamboni, which is that little machine you see go around the ice rinks.
Fifth grade, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they use those in warehouses to clean the floors, and he's the only one that knows how to use it. So guess who's also cleaning the floors at the warehouse?
Oh, geez.
This is definitely a lesson that I've tried with him. Hey, you have to, and you have to delegate. You have to learn how to do that. But it's not something that comes easily when you've always done everything yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have to balance that. You can't take too much time, but you do have to take some time, or you'll end up being that grouchy manager that when people come to you about time off, they don't tell you because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's not the kind of environment that we want to be living in. And it's not the kind of environment that attracts new hires either, right? We want to be attracting new great talent to our agencies. And so it's really important that we respect that personal time. And by a leader taking time off, it shows that they value that and that they respect that as well.
100%.
So the next tip for leaders: use technology. And we alluded to this earlier. Everything has to be in the agency management system. Also, shared calendars are a great way to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. Maybe you have some kind of technology that you use internally where you can have that shared space to know where everybody's at and when they're expected to be back. Because if a team has visibility into that, they know what they need to be doing and where they need to pick up.
Well, and this is huge. I was the marketing person at an agency, and a lead or something would come in, and I'd send the lead off to somebody, and then somebody else would come back and say, "Oh yeah, that person's off this week." And I'm like, well, how was I supposed to know that? I didn't know, oh yeah, they're off. This person's off and that person's off. So I wouldn't know the person is off or the person was out sick that day. And I mentioned different shared calendars and stuff like that, but the agency didn't want to do that because I don't think they wanted everybody in the agency to see when everybody else was off, which is a little silly because the openness of being able to see everybody's calendar and see when people's off, people need to understand that other people get sick. Other people have funerals. Some people are sick more than others. There's nothing we can do about that. You have to learn not to judge on that, especially as a leader. And you do need, that communication, being able to see those calendars in case something comes up, like a lead comes in and you need to send it somewhere. So having access to those calendars is ideal for an agency, for everybody to know where everybody else is in case they need them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. They're going to know when they're not there.
And if they don't know because of a calendar, they're going to find out.
They're going to find out.
And it's going to end up being gossip or venting, which you don't want either. Right. You want to avoid that too. So why not just be open?
Yeah, we don't need the, meeting after the meeting that happens, right? Of employees talking to one another. Oh, well, why didn't Tree show up to work today? Or, Bobby was late again. Well, you know what? As a leader, you need to establish the rules of the game, making sure that everybody has everything in the system. That is going to be the most important thing, because it is all about our customer experience. That's what it boils down to, right? I don't care if Therese didn't show up to work today. It really shouldn't affect my day as long as it doesn't affect my customer. We should all be concerned ultimately what is happening with that customer. And so if all of her information is in the system and I can service the customer, then it really shouldn't matter what's going on other than that, because now it's up to my leader to handle whether that was approved, not approved, or anything else. Shouldn't be any of my business.
Yes, 100%.
Now, the sixth strategy for leaders is have a backup plan. And I know you're going to say, well, how do we have a backup plan? Well, you should have a backup plan. So, and this should actually be part of your job description, right? It should be part of my job description to know that it is my responsibility to provide backup for my teammates when they are not there. And so we do have our download, our paid content download is our job descriptions. And so this is a great time to go ahead and click on those and grab those if you don't have job descriptions in your agency already. But make sure that you are indicating in your job descriptions that it is also my responsibility to back up my team. Because what I don't want to hear from a team is them say, well, that's not my job. That's not in my alphabet.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in the past.
I picked up the phone last time it rang. Guess what? We don't care.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have a backup plan, and we need to think about this because we know it's going to happen. People are going to have emergencies. They're going to have health emergencies. They're going to have family emergencies, pet emergencies, kid emergencies, traffic emergencies, like all of the things happen. And just when you think you've heard all of the things that could happen, something new comes up.
And it has to be a logical backup plan too. Cause I tell you, I was the marketing person at the last agency and I hadn't been an agent in over like a year and a half. So I wasn't familiar with, quoting, any of the management system stuff anymore. I was more familiar with like Google and all that stuff for marketing. And they threw me into an agency quite a few times with me not knowing, I'm a licensed insurance agent, but I was not familiar with their systems. So choosing me as the backup was just not a logical plan. And it frustrated me and it made things very difficult because I'm like, well, if you want me to be in this position where I have to back people up, you need to first give me the training I need to know how to do it. Don't put somebody in a position where they don't know how to do that position and make them feel, undervalued and feel silly.
There's some really good tips in the blog on how to have a backup plan. When you have a backup plan, you minimize disruptions and you maintain productivity, which is really what we need to be doing. And it also enhances our client service because now anybody can handle that call when that client comes in. So a couple of really good tips, though, are cross-training and skill development. So that is what Therese had alluded to here by saying, I need the training in order to perform the action. But if we get people the training ahead of time, then they're able to perform the action when they need to get called in to duty, right? Maybe they don't do it all the time and they're going to be a little bit slower than the normal person would be. But at least we have a plan and we don't completely halt productivity while we're working on this. And then the second piece to that is once you've determined your backup plan and you've communicated that out and you've worked on that training and you've developed those skills, make sure you're testing it and evaluating it for effectiveness. Maybe do a day where you switch roles so that you can make sure that you're testing that and you're evaluating that backup plan to make sure that on the day that we need it, it works. Who remembers fire drills?
Well, and I'd tell you, the biggest fire drill I think our nation has ever had was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were all, if one person in the office got it, usually what happened? The entire office was down.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times that in that particular place where COVID took our biggest office down, and two of us who did not work in agencies had to go to the office to make payments because people were showing up to make payments. Mm-hmm. So I think COVID was a huge fire drill on cross training and the necessity of having backups and different plans.
Absolutely. There's something to that, right? We all went through grade school, middle school, and I grew up in Southern California, so it was the earthquake drill, right?
But hurricanes for me, I was in Florida.
We all knew what to do when an earthquake happened, right? You duck and cover. So to this day, I still know that, but it helps if we prepare, right? If we spend our time preparing, we're not spending our time repairing later. So now if you're a leader and you want to stop watching, you can, but I would suggest you watch the employee section too, because you're probably an employee as well. This one's for the employees. So 6 tips for employees. Plan ahead and communicate with your team. Again, planning. It's all about prior proper planning, right? So we need to make sure that we're planning ahead and that we're communicating with our team. And I'm also taking that extra time to say, hey, Therese, I think that I'm going to take this time off in August. I saw that you were off in July. Is there anything that I need to be considerate, right? Really taking into account the whole team and what is going on and communicating to create a plan. We cannot be selfish when we are working as a team.
Working as a team is huge. Doing anything as a team is really big. And when you've got people on a team that are conflictive and not getting along, that's a huge problem. On another note, I recommend, team building activities. I think people tend not to get along because they don't know each other well enough. They don't know each other's story and where they came from. And because we don't give them a chance to figure that out, they kind of make assumptions about people. So I think having a strong team who works together and trusts each other is big. And that will lead to the communication and the openness.
Well, and I think, when I've had the most struggles with other team members, it's because maybe I didn't feel respected by them.
True.
And I didn't feel like maybe they were either respecting my time or respecting my values or respecting my process. I think by keeping those clear lines of communication open, I understand that now when we're having that conversation, that you respect me, that you're asking my opinion and you're showing a level of respect for me as your teammate to say, hey, before I make this decision, I want to know what your opinion is. And it doesn't mean that it's going to align. It just means we're taking the time to do that. I think that that's really important, is to really learn to trust each other as a team. And that ties exactly into what you were saying, Therese, which is team building. Take that time as a team together to really build out that trust with one another. The second tip I want to give to employees, and this one may be really difficult for you to hear, is be realistic. Be realistic about the things that you are considering and the time that you are considering taking off. We are insurance professionals and we need to operate that way. This is not a career that you just come in and you push the button until your time is up and then you go home. We are doing something that we needed an education in order to be able to perform the job duties that we are doing. We're required to continue that education to be able to renew our license. And so we need to be realistic about the fact that when we're requesting time off, we need to understand and assess the workload. Is it the proper time for me to be taking off? I need to coordinate with my colleagues. I need to consider, is this a peak season in the insurance industry right now? Guess what? I'll tell you that in Q4 is not the time that a life and health agency is letting half their people off.
And let's be realistic. If you're in this insurance position just to get a paycheck, just to clock in at 9 and leave at 5 or whatever time it is, it might be time to self reflect about what you enjoy. I know when you're younger, it's different and you look at it a little differently, but it's really, really important that you find joy in it one way or another. And if you don't, and you're just there to get a paycheck, it may be time to evaluate that and think about your choices. And we all know those people out there that take time off when they shouldn't, and the agency has to scramble. But that also shows you the people that really care about the agency and don't. And that's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. And some agencies really need those people. So they just keep trudging and keep doing it the way they're doing it.
Or what does it do to morale?
Yes, it definitely hinders and makes morale really bad. So you've got some people who really work hard and really are team players. You've got some really, really good team players. You've got people that pretend to be team players and really aren't. And then you just have the ones that just aren't team players. And you need to find a way, the leadership needs to find a way to help kind of blend those and have the people who are the team players try to influence those who aren't and show them what brings them joy in that industry, in the insurance industry. I found the industry to be an excellent place to be when I couldn't find anything else. I was bilingual. I had a teaching degree, but it's from a foreign country. I was trying to become a teacher, but nobody would hire me because my degree didn't count here. So I happened to run across an insurance agent and he liked the skills I had and hired me immediately. And I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me, but it was definitely the best thing that ever happened to him because I was a really, really hard worker. I'm not trying to blow my own whistle, but I really kind of fell in insurance and just, was like sucking it up like a sponge, learning everything. And I enjoyed it. And I liked the customers. I speak Spanish, so I dealt with a lot of the Spanish customers and I enjoyed the culture of it. So you definitely, have to find what works and find what makes you, if it's the customers that you enjoy, then, dig in deep in that and make that your enjoyment.
Yeah. We want to make sure that our people in our agency are in the right seat in the bus, that they're really operating in their wheelhouse, right? If you've got somebody that loves to hunt, that loves to sell, that loves, putting them in a service role, maybe not the best idea, and vice versa. Maybe, somebody that's not great at numbers shouldn't be your accounting person.
Right.
Maybe somebody who's not great at technology shouldn't be doing your IT support. So I think it's really, it's really wise to make sure that you sit back and you really take an overall look at the agency and understand, do we have the right people in the right seats on the bus? And are they getting to do the things that they love each day?
Well, and since we're on the employee section, if you're an employee and you're not in the place that you feel you fit, then you need to communicate that.
Absolutely. Again, it goes back to communication. We've talked about communication a lot in this podcast, but I think that it is so important. There is nothing more important every day than the way that we communicate with each other and really opening up and being able to honestly speak what is on our mind, what is going on with our day, where we're experiencing challenges and where we need help.
And that's one thing I like APP for. The one-on-ones that we have with our direct manager, in this case, most of us are Kelly, but having those one-on-ones really helps kind of get to know each other, but also to get rid of all of those questions we have that we feel like they can't be answered. Sometimes the written communication can be very confusing because it's not clear what you're communicating. But having a one-on-one with your staff is an excellent opportunity for that communication building.
Yeah, absolutely. As an employee, we'll circle back around to, making sure we're being realistic about our expectations when we're requesting that time off. We're communicating early. We're communicating often. We're offering our support and assistance leading up to that time off so that everyone is clear about what expectations are, who's going to be managing what, how that's all going to happen. and what is expected of each person. The third tip for employees is utilize your technology. Just like we talked about with managers, we told your managers to expect everything to be in the system.
It's not in your management system. It didn't happen.
Yes. This means no emails in your email box, in your inbox or your sent box. The last thing I want somebody doing is sitting there trying to figure out your email box or in some folder storage system that you've created outside of your agency management system. This is not a way to operate. It does not help our customer experience at all. You need to make sure that everything is in the agency management system, not in a notebook on your desk, not on some Post-it on your computer monitor. Like we've seen it all, not in a voicemail sitting in your phone.
Not in your head.
Yes, please put it in the system. So I've created a checklist for employees of things that they should be doing. It's really just a guide, and feel free to add your things to that too. And if you have additional items to put on there, but putting on your out of office reply, putting on your out of office reply on your email and your voicemail. Who's going to be taking those calls, directing them to the right person, providing any updates to any projects, and making sure, if somebody needs usernames, passwords, anything that would allow them to service a client better, that you're leaving something nice and tidy, right? I want you to think about it like it's Christmas Eve. You're getting ready for your Christmas, and this is Christmas Eve. And so you're packaging up your beautiful little desk and you're wrapping it very thoughtfully, nice and neat, and hiding all of the tape, right? And putting a beautiful little bow on the top so that it is nice and beautiful for your team to open up when they are ready to do so the next morning while you're out enjoying your vacation. And that's what you want to be doing, is enjoying your vacation. You are not only setting up your team for success, you're setting yourself up for success. The fourth point for employees is be available. Be available before your time off so that you can clarify any questions that anybody may have, and that you are available for making sure that you have provided that communication back to the team of any expectations so that they can make sure they're meeting those.
Yep. Just send a short little reminder. Hey, I remember I'm going to be off tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. If you have any questions for me, I'm available.
Yep. And then we've talked a lot about communication, but the one last thing I want to talk about is preparing to come back. We all think about some may land nicer than others, but I think all from an honest perspective and how we can all really work as a team to run an agency effectively. And we all look at it from a different lens. So from a person who's managing a desk to the receptionist to, the accountant, we all have roles and responsibilities that we have to make sure are covered, because ultimately it affects our clients in the long run. So I appreciate Therese taking time out of her day today to be with us. We have got some great content for you. So our agency efficiency is our course. And if you are also excited about how to get things directly entered into your agency management system so that you can effectively manage your time off, make sure you sign up for that course now. We've also got our freemium content on how to get clients on EFT, which will help to save your agency time. You can download that now, and our job descriptions. So job descriptions are going to be important. And if you want those, we've got those as our paid content this month. And we look forward to seeing you on our next podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.